Hi folks, welcome back. Happy day after the total solar eclipse here in the Americas. I hope you're managing okay with that intense energy. It's definitely been intense for me, I'm not gonna lie. I had kind of a calm, cool, collected lead into it, and then I'd say yesterday around, I don't even know what time, Pacific Standard Time where I live in the Americas, and it all kind of started to come in to my energy where I was just feeling periods of rage, then confusion, dizziness. At one point when I was trying to go to bed, because I was like, maybe I'll just go to bed. I'll just go to bed early because it felt so intense. Like I wanted to be not even in my body. Like I just wanted to climb out of my body. It was really intense. And then as I was laying there was all this like pulsing, like light stuff happening with my eyes closed. I was like, whoa, but today I'm a little more grounded again. And I wanted to just do kind of a quick snapshot in the moment, quality of the moment, not necessarily a predictive reading for us today, to help us integrate the energy if it's going to be at all helpful. That's kind of the intention I set. But then also another interesting thing that came through that I wanted to do before I get into the reading, which is a little bit unusual, but as I've started this work and dedicating so much of my time to it, my abilities to kind of access my third eye vision has improved, and I don't hold myself out there as any type of special gifted. Anyone can do this kind of work. You can develop your own psychic abilities. Anyone has access to this part of themselves, and tapping into their subconscious, even for collective unconscious and universal archetypal symbols. That's all very kind of Joseph Campbell and the power of myth, but it's really true. And I just want to put out there, like, I don't do these things presenting myself as, you must follow me, or what I have some unique wisdom. I don't. This is very much accessible to anyone, and probably other people say this too. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I need to. But that's just a little aside there. I don't even know what it was. But the reason I even came into that is because this morning I've been having more experiences like this, where I have like a precognition or an experience that is meaningful that I'm supposed to do something with after I've been shown the information. And so this morning, in that liminal space between waking up and still being in a deep sleep, we experience a lot of, like, in that liminal space, like sparks of insight or wisdom or some type of, maybe a message from our ancestors. And when I was in that space this morning, this woman approached me. It's weird. She looked kind of like me, but almost like a parallel universe version of me or something. It was weird. And as a child, I had an imaginary friend named after myself. So do with that what you will. So this was like a version of me in some way. I didn't seem to recognize that in this dream, but I'm kind of seeing it now as I look back on it in my memory. It's like she looked like me. And she approached me holding this belt buckle that was my dad's. And she was like, handed it to me, and I knew what it was right away. I love this belt buckle. And she was like, I just wanted you to have this. It feels really important that I give this to you. And I knew right away, and I was almost even a little bit confused, like, how did you get this? Because I thought I had this belt buckle. This was my dad's belt buckle, but I was also so grateful and touched, and there was a lot of meaning and feeling and sentiment behind it. And I almost feel like it was something to do, it didn't really feel like, though, that it was my dad communicating with me. But when I woke up, I felt like I was supposed to share that. So I think that's what the imagery was about the person looking like me, is that you might have a dad who's passed on, and you might have a memento like this, like a belt buckle, or you might have a really fond memory of your dad's belt buckle. Like, I keep seeing like a country Western man, maybe even like a Latino man, I know there's the whole gender conversation around gendered verbiage in that way. So he was a Latino man, very masculine, wearing a belt buckle like this. Like my dad, this doesn't seem, it's a little bit smaller than I've seen. Like the belt buckle that I'm seeing in my mind's eye of this loved one to you, the belt buckle is bigger and rounder. And kind of like the Tex-Mex style, like he's got a Western shirt and boots and a really big belt buckle. And there's something about that imagery, like I don't know who he is to you, but he's coming through around my dad's belt buckle. So at first I was kind of thinking maybe I'm going to talk about my dad and my dad's relationship and with plants, which was very different than but it's not about that. It's about you and your dad kind of basically saying that he's with you through this fond memory that you have of his style, or like you might have always loved that belt buckle. I'm seeing a picture of you always reaching for it and touching it and liking it and being drawn to it and its solid feeling. So there's definitely a precious memory out there for someone's dad, and that's all. And so anyways, I'm not accustomed to stuff like that happening. I'm still kind of learning how to and what I'm supposed to do with a situation like that, where I have a dream like that, where I keep, like, it took me some of the morning to figure out, am I supposed to include that in my reading? Because it kind of didn't really feel like it was my dad, even though it was my dad's belt buckle. So anyways, now on with our reading today. I was just planning to do a snapshot for today. Like, what's the best way to manage this energy? And I subscribe to a Patreon and follow a card reader, and she might say, or they might say they're an astrologist too. I can't think of their pronouns offhand, but they have a Ms. in their name, so maybe she, right? Ms. Joyce Tarot. And she talked in her layout today about the eclipse hangover and what it can feel like, and still feeling really on edge and weird and not quite yourself maybe. And so that's the reading I'm trying to read, as well as like what's going to be helpful for you to know now in this current point in time while we're still in the eclipse energy feeling anyways, right? And I just want to thank her because I liked the way that she described that it was an eclipse hangover and how it feels. It's definitely, I've had some of that feeling this morning, and I way had it last night. And it was a hangover by last night, especially on the West Coast. You know, it was already past by then. Oh. Starting right off with the World card and an Ace of Swords, clarity. So still, yeah, this is all that energy, and in a similar way that she described with her layout, which had a Five of Swords in it. This central issue here is the world. So you have an awareness that this eclipse has been a major player in your own world. You're someone who thinks in that way already and who's not new to this kind of thinking. So you are perceiving this total eclipse that we had in Aries, total new moon eclipse. You are in a state of perceiving that my world is in a major transition. It's no, it's not the weightiest card here. It's got two bookends of weighty cards with the piercing clarity of the Ace of Swords and also the Hanged Man. So you have a sense, or I'm getting a sense for you, that as you have this world in your consciousness, you're bookending it with clarity and with stillness. So you have the wisdom here presently to know that this is a tense time, because here's a Page of Swords and here's an Eight of Cups. So this is a feeling of young vulnerability and setting limits and walking away and knowing that your world is being transformed as a result. And it's harmonized with the eclipse. You're a tapped in person. You're very conscious of this already. And the lesson is to kind of keep accessing your air element and staying clear. You're being granted clarity. This is like a moment of clarity, and can be even like being given the gift of an aha, like moment of real clarity for yourself as you've walked away and kind of cut cords and are in this stillness and watching and waiting. So let's see if we can have a little bit of more information through using some scrying technique here. I wanted to get a deck. Well, the way I started this, because I also do an obsidian mirror scrying session on this channel, and I also like to scry using ink and water, but I don't always want to waste my ink by setting up. I wouldn't want to do so frequently. So I started out looking for a Rorschach book that I was going to try to, like a used old, but even some of those are fairly controlled. That's controlled information. You have to pay the creators of the Rorschach ink blots, whoever the therapeutic group is that now controls that scientific discovery information, like journal articles, you'll often have to pay for, which is messed up, but it's the way it is. I started realizing, like, oh, it's not going to be simple necessarily to find a Rorschach ink blot book because I'm not a psychologist trained in the Rorschach method. But I did find something even better, which is an ink blot deck. And this is by I Am Cynthia Moon. She has a shop on Etsy. But she is not on the shop, I've noticed, very often. So I had to wait a while for these, but they're really beautiful. And I've already done a couple layouts with them. So that's what this deck is. Ink scrying is the sort of foundation of these cards. Okay, so I'm gonna, now because this involves scrying, I need to gaze here a little bit, so this is not the same as just understanding a card's meaning. I'm using scrying here. This is showing me movement. This is showing me movement like a chariot, which is interesting because it's not a chariot card, it's an ink scrying card, but it's showing me the chariot. And it's showing me that your grasp on this eclipse impacting your world is that it's creating a lot of movement for you. So it could be literally, like you may be moving and riding your chariot into a new place geographically on the planet. What I'm seeing here too, though, is a more abstract concept of that. Like you're moving and shifting on a skeletal level. Your skeletal system is coming through here. Like your central channel, if we're speaking about meditative, Tibetan meditative, the central channel I'm seeing. So you have a very physical awareness about how this eclipse is impacting you, and your physicality and your life is really coming through here. I'm seeing these two horses of the chariot, but also this kind of spinal column running through it, leading right through her where she's standing. I don't know if you can see that, but this is an image of a woman representing the earth, right, and the world. With this Page of Swords here, which is in the challenge position. So we understand from tarot that that is feeling a warring or conflicted, young, maybe insecure, uneasy from walking away, walking into the new and feeling uneasy about your place in it yet is coming through. There's been challenges about who you've listened to. You're hearing a lot of talk and a lot of negative. I'm seeing two people yelling here, which is in keeping with this kind of challenge Page of Swords. There might have been some hard words exchanged around this eclipse, or a final showdown maybe, because it's showing me some conflicts, but also perception here for someone that you may have been listening to the wrong people. That's coming through here because your ears and your throat chakra I'm seeing right here a little bit, but also like warring, yelling, and talk. There's a lot of talk here. These are like talking faces with mouths open. So watching and waiting and being observed, gossip coming through, talk, other people's opinions. These are the challenges. These are the tense energies that maybe are revealed and being eclipsed away. And you have the wisdom to know that you need to be walking away from this kind of conflicted environment. This might even be like an old timeline that you're shifting away from, where you might have been a part of this group, right? Or this kind of negative energy dynamic, which can happen if you've suddenly realized you've surrounded yourself with people who might betray you and you didn't know that at first. They might have been people that you trusted, right? Something like that is coming through with a lot of talk, conflict, listening, gossip. And Page of Swords can also be considered a little bit of a spy. So maybe you might be feeling a lot of energy of people looking in on your life, gossiping about it, talking about it, impacting you, things frustrating like that. But here in the lesson is the Ace of Swords. So even though this fraught tension and tense energy is here in your challenge position, the lesson is for you to just maintain your clarity, maintain that precise Ace of Swords, precision, purest form of clarity. Like some readers, and I'm sure you've heard this, you probably know this as someone who's pretty tapped in, that this ace could even be considered to hover over the whole reading. That in spite of this tension and challenge and physicality experience, you have clear vision. You are able to be staying above this challenge. This is a very coming through really strongly with this Ace of Swords as a face. This is just, to me, indisputably a face of a jester right now, coming through really strong. So you may have become aware of the trickster energy around you. This eclipse energy as it approached may have started revealing things to you, that you were, that a trickster was afoot, or that trickster energy is afoot, and you became clear on that, that you might have been in an illusion. You became aware of an illusion. Because as you see, this is a jester. It looks like a jester with his Joker's hat, right? The court jester, but he's incredibly serious and black imagery. This is not a fun jester. This is like a illusory kind of energy almost. Like, I don't shade or dismiss. I'm not saying this is bad. Like, I'm not naming it as a judged. I'm just saying it is what it is. You became aware of the illusory nature of circumstance around you in a really serious way. That's a really powerful image here. And I'm also seeing here you having to face the illusion within yourself. You may have been, and it's so, wow, man, this is also showing me like stone energy, like Easter Island, those, I don't know if that has meaning for you. That's sort of a powerful, weird thing that just kind of came through of those colossal heads on Easter Island. Which is a place that's shrouded in mystery. And so this has a lot of mystery associated with it, but you've clearly seen and become awakened to the illusion here and the mystery. The advice here, let me look now. It's the Eight of Cups, so your advice is to continue the path that you've started by realizing I need to walk away from these illusions and this circle or this environment that I'm in. I need to step out of this timeline or out of this group's influence or out of this kind of talk and hostility and negative energy around the throat chakra, like really spying, deception, like your advice, and you already seem to have this vision, is to keep walking away. But let me read this card here a little bit because I haven't really gazed into this so much. It's interesting because it's a color reflection of this. This is this exact ink blot, only this has got color in addition to shadow. So and it's in the same position. They're both showing out like this. So it's like this perception of vision through the eclipse is going from shadow into light and color spectrum again through this walking away. You are bringing in harmony with this eclipse, the new, but you don't know what that looks like yet. There's maybe that's part of the anxiety here, is that you don't know where you're going. You're kind of walking a blind path almost. You just know it's the right path, is what I'm feeling. And by doing so, by kind of facing this illusion and facing these challenges, it's now coming back into color. As the shadow has eclipsed out, things are coming back into focus with color, right? Wow, how cool and beautiful. And so when we talked about the central channel and the spinal column, this can also be doing some chakra work, like maybe by walking away and creating some room around you. It might benefit you right now, advice-wise, to do some work with your chakra system to help it feel it's clearing out any blocks or things that might have been deep within the chakra, right? If you're someone that believes in that kind of energetic, I'm not speaking to someone who's not familiar with this. Sorry, sometimes I go in and out between speaking as if I'm teaching a group, which I'm not necessarily here to teach, but it comes through. So part of me wants to teach for some reason, apparently. But I'm trying to you clearly are in the know. You don't need me to teach you about these topics. You have the understanding, but you might just need a reading like this to reassure you. Yes, your vision is clear. You're seeing clearly, even though you feel like you're walking in the dark. It's like, by walking in the dark, you're trusting a different vision for yourself. That's one that's based on guidance from a higher law or a higher plane, or the color spectrum, or light, or there's something to that for you. And then in the near future is just for you maintaining your stillness through this energy and knowing these things are coming. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable. The Hanged Man is not comfortable. It's not a comfortable experience to be the Hanged Man, but this is like the spiritual imagery around the Hanged Man, that you're in this place of stillness to allow these transformations to occur, and you understand that, and you even understand that it's uncomfortable. And this is like an affirmation for you that's saying, yeah, you're just meant to keep experiencing this discomfort in stillness and allow the energy of this eclipse to keep guiding you. Keep trusting that it's almost like still small voice within you, that even though you're walking ahead blindly from not being able to see what's in the future or even make any guesses, in some ways, you know that it's right for you and you're trusting that. What I'm seeing here, this is really going to be, I think, specific for someone, or it may just be, there's 2 cows here. And there's also a leg. And what this is showing me, honestly, is that this might have meaning for you about work that you're going to do with the environment or with the planet or with animals, because the very potent energies here are clearly animal energies, and these animal energies are being watched over. And through this vision here from these, it's almost like these are guardian spirits of these animals. And so if you think of a cow, here are these 2 gentle cows. I wish I could give you this really close up, but 2 gentle cows facing one another. If you know anything about cows and cattle, in most of the developed world, it's considered a commodity. People treat them horribly. Except for people who are like animal rescue, vegetarian, vegan advocates, right? Which is a huge group. They're not small numbers. They're making big changes in the world. But it's these cows, and then right beneath the cows, it's showing me an animal's leg, like commodity, like cuts, like when you look at an image of a pig or a cow, and it's like a chef's image where the cuts of meat are broken down in the image of the cow. So it becomes no longer a creature, but cuts of meat or a commodity for consumption. And I don't judge that or not. I eat meat. I try to eat ethically raised meat, but some people rightly can debate that that's not even a thing and we shouldn't be eating meat at all. So that's wherever you are on the spectrum. I'm I embrace all discussions around this kind of thing. Another thing that's coming through this is that you might be someone who ends up working with or supporting the movement to generate meat out of a lab so that animals no longer need to be harmed, but so that humans can get the protein quality that comes with meat consumption. Some people, me included, have struggled to feel healthy if I'm not consuming a certain amount of meat. And I think it's in part because I'm anemic and borderline anemic, and I benefit in times from eating red meat because of all the iron. But also it's, there's a lot of layers. I could go way deep into this because it's also the planet, like where people, the common person is being asked to assume all the responsibility for the climate crisis when really it's large billionaire, big capital is what's destroying, and the military industrial complex, right? It's not the individual person consuming meat occasionally, right? There's a lot of imagery coming through this about animals, guarding animals, watching over animals, and recognizing oh my God, this comes back to my dad to some degree, because a conversation that I had once with my dad as a child, because my dad had my dad was a food chemist, and he was a malting chemist. He worked in the brewing industry, and he was actually really proud that he did the work of our ancestors in terms of working with beer. And so he was really proud of that, but he was a Western trained chemist. So he wasn't someone that had a spiritual relationship with plants necessarily, even though he was doing the work that our ancestors did around brewing beer and generating malt from barley and all these ways of working with plants. He was doing it in like a Western science way. And food commodity was really big in my dad's life. And I remember starting to be an advocate as a child for recycling and even for vegetarianism or for reducing our consumption of meat, because I was learning about nature and about science and about biology and climate. And I remember my dad saying, we don't need to do any of that. And I kind of was like, well, why? And he said, because we were placed here to have dominion over the earth. Earth was given to us by God for us to rule. And I remember as a child knowing that I didn't agree with that. And I said to him as a child, well, wouldn't that mean that we have even more responsibility to take good care of it if it's been given to us from God, right? Which is I remember very vividly, he didn't know what to say. And he liked and encouraged me at times to debate him. So I think I gave him something to think about. And that might be also why my dad's energy came through here, so that I would tell that story, so I would make this connection with this scrying, that you have some awareness that you might be being called towards having a way bigger role in your life towards protecting animals. And I'm just going to leave it there. I don't have anything else to say about it. That's what's coming through really strongly. It seems like a specific message that's meant for someone. So I really want to respect it. You've had a sense, like maybe I could see this being a number of, like you started to see behind the veil about what happens in factory farming, right? And once you started going down that educational path, you can't look back. And you've now realized, not only am I not okay with that, I've now realized that part of my future is that I have to actively work towards protecting animals in some way, right? So I think that's going to be it for this reading. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. And let's see if I need to really find a way to get up off the floor that's easier, or have a different chair, because it's hard for me to get up from seated on the floor in that tiny space. Thank you.